Well, good evening. I'm Dr. Barlow, Dean of the Graduate School, and I'm really glad that you were able to join me this evening. I want to take this opportunity to share with you some information and then also try to answer some of the questions that you may have. As we go through the information, please feel free to use the question and answer feature to put your questions in, and there will be time for me to answer your questions at the end. To get us started, let me get this going. First, just an overview of our goals for the evening. There are two GPAs that we'll be talking about, so cumulative GPA and program GPA. So I want you to be able to know the difference between those two. Another goal we have this evening is to understand the probation policy. The policy that we have now is fairly new. It went into effect at fall of 2020, so last semester. So it's really important that we understand that policy and how that affects you as a student. And then finally, I want to talk about supports that we have in place that you can take advantage of so that you'll be successful in graduate school. Before we get started though, I do want to say that I typed the word probation into a Google search, and these are some of the images that came up. And so, probation seems to be a very negative, or it carries with it a negative connotation. But in terms of probation in graduate school at UCA, that is not how we view it. So it's not punitive. There's no penalty to you in terms of being on probation. And instead, we see it as a moment to alert both you and us at the graduate school so that we can make sure that we provide you with the academic support that you need, as well as the resources, which may be people, so that you can be successful in graduate school, because we do want to see you finish. Like, that's our goal, is to see you cross the stage and be hooded. So again, probation at UCA is really more about an academic alert, saying, hey, let's pause for a minute, see what's going on. Can we help you? Is there something you need to do differently? Excuse me, so that you can be successful in graduate school. So with that in mind, we're going to jump right in and take a look at these two graduate GPAs that I mentioned. So one is referred to as your cumulative graduate GPA, and the other is your program GPA. And these two are important because in order to finish your degree, you have to have a 3.0, at least a 3.0 in both of those. Okay. So to understand the difference, if this is your first graduate program at UCA, and as long as you're sticking to your degree plan and you're not taking extra classes, then your cumulative graduate GPA and your program GPA will be the same. The difference comes when either you may be in a second or third graduate program at UCA, or if for some reason you take extra classes, which we don't recommend and you really shouldn't be doing. But if that happens, then your cumulative GPA may be different from your program GPA. And so I've got this picture trying to help you to imagine, like, if this image right here, if this is all of the different classes that you've taken, some of those apply to the degree. That's your program GPA. And then all the others are sitting out here. So your program GPA is going to be, it could potentially be different since it's a smaller set of classes. So how do you know what your program and cumulative graduate GPA are? The best way to find out is to look in DegreeWorks. And if you go to DegreeWorks, or to get to DegreeWorks, you go to My UCA. Then you go to your students' roles area, and you should be able to find DegreeWorks students. Or of course, you can go to My UCA and search and find DegreeWorks students. And when you log in, then you will see an audit that looks something similar to this. Now, a couple of caveats to this image that I have. One, when you're actually in DegreeWorks, out here, and I hope y'all can see my cursor, there will be like little down arrows where you can open up different sections and see the different courses, but I've collapsed those for this report. The other thing I'll point out too is that if you got an undergraduate degree at UCA, that will be the first degree it shows. And so you may have to go up here and click on this arrow to switch it to your graduate degree, okay? So with that background, looking at this degree audit, there's some pieces of information I want you to pay attention to. First of all, this student has a 3.666 on 54 hours that are listed in this institutional GPA, and then they're also listed here in the major GPA. So this student's overall GPA and their major GPA are the same, and they're on the same number of hours. So that tells me that this is this student's first graduate degree here at UCA, and that they are sticking to the degree plan, which is the best thing they should do. And so that those two numbers match. And they're also both above 3.0. And therefore, we see right up here under academic standing, it says good standing. Another example of a degree audit. So this one, this student has a 3.0, and that's overall, that's all graduate courses. And you can see that's on 36 hours of courses completed. And then in the major, they have a 3.125, and that's on 30 hours that they've completed. So this tells me that this student has taken 6 hours extra that were not a part of the degree, and that they did worse on them, because you can see how those extra 6 hours pulled down their overall GPA, which is one reason you really shouldn't take classes that are not on your degree plan. Regardless, this particular student has at least a 3.0 in both areas, and so we see right up here that this student is in good standing. So, you know, if one or both of those GPAs falls below a 3.0, then up there under academic standing, it will say probation, and that's an alert to you that you're on probation. So the policy, as I've been saying, is that you're expected to maintain a cumulative graduate GPA and a program GPA of 3.0 or above. And so if you don't have that in either one or both of those areas, then you're placed on probation. And there's that phrase I was using a moment ago. Probation serves to alert you of potential academic problems. So it's not punitive, it's an alert. Now, in this new policy that we started in the fall, the policy tells you how many hours you can take while you're on probation. That's one of the differences in this particular policy. And that number depends. And it depends on what type of program you're in. So we have two types of programs, and I want you to listen to these descriptions and think about which one you belong to. We have cohort programs, and those are programs where they accept a certain set of students, and that set of students moves through their curriculum, taking the same classes as everybody else that came in at the same time. And they tell you, okay, now next semester you take these 3 or 4 classes or those 5 classes. So you move through the program together, and they tell you what you're taking, they being the program coordinator. Some examples of this are physical therapy, occupational therapy. CSPA is a cohort program if the students in it are full-time. They do have part-time students, so they kind of get out of the cohort, but if you're full-time, it's a cohort. Psychology, PhD, mental health counseling, those are cohort programs. In contrast, a non-cohort program is one that's going to have a lot more flexibility. They'll say, you know, how many hours do you want to take next semester? What classes would you like to take, or what's available that you need to take? So that's a very different conversation. And most of our graduate programs are non-cohort programs, okay? Now, whichever one of those you are, keep that in mind. So according to our policy, if you're on probation, then if you're a cohort student, you get to take 1 additional semester while you're on probation, and you're expected to improve your GPA in that 1 semester to a 3.0. If you're a non-cohort student, then you have 9 additional hours of courses that you must take, or which you can take to get your GPA up to a 3.0. All of those 9 hours have to be on the degree plan, okay? So let's look at some ways that this plays out. So if you're in a cohort program, so you're a cohort student. So fall of 2020, you took some hour. I don't know how many you took. It depends on what program you're in and what your cohort was. And at the end of fall, you were on probation. So one or both of your GPAs fell below a 3.0. You received a letter. That's why we're here tonight. If you're in a cohort program, then you can take however many hours they tell you can take as a part of your program in the spring. And the expectation is that you have to be off probation at the end of spring. So in your letter that you received, it'll tell you how many hours of A's or B's you need to get off of probation. And a cohort student would have 1 semester to do that. Now, in contrast, so let's look at some examples if you're a non-cohorted student. So again, you took some classes in the fall. I don't know how many because it varies from one student to the next. And at the end, one or both of your graduate GPAs was below a 3.0. You're on probation, you receive a letter. In the spring, you can take 9 hours if you like. Now, if you're a full-time student, you may have to take 9 hours. That would be the smart thing. If you are working full-time, you don't want to take 9 hours, okay? But you could. And the expectation would be that by the end of spring semester, you've had your 9 hours, you have to be off of probation. But another way a non-cohort student may do this, so here we are again, fall is over, here comes spring. You could take 6 hours in the spring, and then in the summer take 3 more hours. So that's a total of 9 hours. You would have to be off of probation by the end. So it's not that you have to take 9 hours in a single semester. You can space it out across semesters. You cannot do this. So here you'll notice that spring was 6 hours, but then summer is also 6 hours. And the problem there is you have to be off of probation after 9 hours. So if you're taking 6 hours at the same time, that's not going to be allowed. You could do it. So that's not allowed. There's my X. Okay. You could do it like this though. So 6 hours in the spring, 3 hours in summer 1. After that, we do an evaluation, make sure you're off probation. And if you are, you can keep going. So you would get to take 3 hours in summer 2. So that's how we could work that. Again, the point is we have to be able to evaluate your transcript at the end of 9 hours to make sure you're back in good standing. So at the end of 9 hours, what happens? Well, hopefully both your cumulative and your program GPA are 3.0 or greater. Then you'll be in good standing. We don't send you a letter that says, hey, you're back in good standing. We automatically check it. And then to be sure, you could go into Degree Works to see if, right up there where it says academic standing, does it now say good standing? And you'll be good. If you don't have that 3.0 in either the cumulative or the program GPA, then you'll be suspended from graduate study at UCA. Now, I will say that there is a policy where you can appeal that suspension, and I'm not going to go into the steps of that right now. My assumption is that we're all going to work really hard and do well and not be on probation after this semester or after your 9 hours. But in the event that you've improved your GPA and have fallen just a little bit short of that 3.0, you can appeal the suspension, and the steps for that are in the graduate bulletin. But if and when that day comes, I would ask you just please reach out to me and I'll talk you through that process so that that you know what to do. Okay, but for right now, I just want you to know that there is an option. So you received your letter. It told you what your grades was. It told you what grades you need to make in order to get off of probation. And I've explained the policy. So I hope you have a clear picture of the policy and how that will affect you as a graduate student. So now I'm going to turn to what should be our third objective or goal for this evening, and that is just to highlight some of the academic supports that are in place that are there for you to take advantage of as you work as a graduate student at UCA. So first of all, I would strongly encourage you to talk with your advisor and your instructors. A lot of times I talk to students and they don't realize how much a faculty member is willing to do for you to help you to be successful in their class, particularly at the graduate level. It's very different from undergraduate in that, you know, once you're a graduate student and you're talking to a faculty member, y'all are in the same discipline, like my discipline of math education. If you're in my graduate class, you're probably studying math education too. And so we have that in common. And I really want to see you be successful. And I want you to know that you can come to me. And other faculty at UCA are the same way. So typically students who end up withdrawing at the graduate level do so because they fall behind. And they have all these different things competing for their attention as adults. Just know that you can go to your advisor, go to your instructors, explain your situation, and they will work with you to help you to figure out and navigate these competing demands that you have. Another academic support I would encourage you to take advantage of is the Center for Writing and Communication, CWC. So if you're in a program that's writing intensive and you find yourself having to write a lot of papers or give presentations, know that they are there to work with you. They are eager to support graduate students. They can set you up with virtual visits and so forth. So that is definitely a resource that you have to support your success. Another support, oddly, is the DegreeWorks audit. Take a look at your audit. If something doesn't look right, reach out to your advisor, reach out to your program coordinator, or call us at the graduate school and say, hey, this just doesn't look right. And we'll be glad to take a look at it and figure out what's going on. And so looking at your audit and knowing where you stand is an important piece to being successful. So that is definitely an academic support that you have. The library's research coaches. So those folks are at the library and they are very eager to help you. I'm sure they'll work with you virtually if that's the need that you have. And they will help you to figure out the process for conducting research on different topics and how to use the library's resources that they have. So know that we have those research coaches and they are there and interested in helping you. I also will put a plug in for our Bear Scholar seminars. So 2 or 3 times a semester, we will have a Bear Scholar seminar, and often those topics, excuse me, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Oh, sorry. So often those topics are definitely ones that would help you to think through different aspects of your graduate program. We do have a seminar tomorrow night. So tomorrow, our seminar topic is Home Away from Home. And the speaker is a doctoral student from Middle Tennessee State University. So he's a student that I knew there before I came to UCA. And he is international. And he's going to talk about some of the struggles that he had in setting up his home away from home. And yet doing so was vital to his success. And he has been very successful academically. So he has a very interesting story. And I think there's some aspects that we could all learn from in hearing that. So you should see information about our seminars, like the one that we have tomorrow, on our website, on our social media, in your email. So I hope you've seen that, and I'll hope you'll consider joining us for this one, as well as future Bear Scholar seminars. And they're also in this same webinar format, so you can access them online. I would also encourage you to reach out to the Office of Student Success. I recognize that a lot of their material is definitely geared towards undergraduates, particularly first-time freshmen, but at the same time, the information that they often present is very much applicable to you as a graduate student. So know that if you are struggling with something or you're looking for suggestions, the Office of Student Success is a resource for you as a graduate student. In addition to academic supports, I'll hit the high points on a few well-being supports, because well-being is very much as important as your academic supports. So we do have this year for the first time a graduate support GA, and his name is John Scott Kelly, and his email is right there, gradsupport@uca.edu. And his sole purpose is to be a resource for graduate students. So John Scott, you can email him and set up a time to talk with him. He has virtual office hours as well, and he'll meet with you virtually and have a conversation and try to either answer your questions, provide you with some guidance or some advice. He might point you towards the resources that are available to you on campus, and really just anything that you're wondering about, questioning, struggling with. John Scott is someone that you can reach out and talk to. It's done anonymously in the sense that he's not going to like take your name down and turn it into anyone. So just know that this is a confidential place, a safe space that you can go talk to him, and he'll again help you with anything. So it could just be questions about registering, and John Scott could answer your questions, but it may be also looking for some suggestions on how to like balance all the demands in your life, and he can point you in direction for that as well. So that is definitely a well-being resource that we have for you. I encourage you to take advantage of the counseling center. John Scott is a great resource, and he can definitely talk to you and give you some guidance. But we also have the counseling center, and now that we've gone virtual, they are a resource for all graduate students, including our online students. And so that's actually a very good thing. So know that you can take advantage of the counseling center. And then for those of us that are in the Conway area, I encourage you to go to the Hyper. Physical activity is a part of well-being, and well-being is a part of academic success. So definitely take advantage of our facilities at the Hyper. So in summary, this evening we had 3 goals. One was to talk about cumulative GPA versus program GPA, and we saw a couple of instances of how they're related. I also wanted you to make sure you understand the probation policy. Again, this is a new policy. So like if you talk to a friend who completed a degree or something a while back, and he's like, oh, I was on probation for 3 semesters. Then you'll be able to say, well, it's a new policy, so it's a new day, and there's maybe different guidelines. So, if you have questions, ask us at the graduate school. Don't ask people that you may know that might have dealt with this before. And then I also wanted to share some supports that we have for your success. And I have my email here in case for some reason you have questions that you'd rather email me directly. I'll be glad to try to answer your emails.